Let's talk about it. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the new Cotopaxi 2024 redesign, which you can see I have here brand new tags still on. We're going to talk about some of the changes from the old Cotopaxi 28 liter, some of the things that better, worse, and just review the bags. Let's just jump straight into it. So if you've watched my videos before, you'll know that we're going to do general features, then pros, cons, and then who would I recommend the bag for and who I wouldn't recommend the bag for. The only difference is in this first section, I am going to talk about the features that they've changed from the old bag as opposed to just the features of the bag. I have had the Cotopaxi 35 liter bag for many years now, 3 years maybe, quite a while. And I've been a long time fan of that bag. I made a video about it a year or two years ago now, I think. I'll link it down below if you want to see my thoughts on that bag. That will obviously not be the new version. And I still have that bag. I don't use it as much now because I usually use a smaller bag, but I've been wanting to try the 28 liter bag for ages. I actually picked up the old version, I think like 6 months ago now, before I even knew there was going to be a new version, and Australia only just got the new version like a week ago. So I decided to pick up the new bag as well. I'll give my thoughts on the bag and the changes and my usage of the original bag, but obviously I haven't used the new version of this bag, so I can't talk long term about if the durability has changed, but I have found the durability of the other bags to be good. So the general layout of a Cotopaxi bag, if you're not familiar, it has this main compartment here, which is the biggest compartment, and then it has these other two compartments on the other side. This is the top of the bag. So here we have this compartment, then you have this smaller compartment, then the main compartment, and then on the side you have the laptop sleeve, and then on the top you have this like bigger external compartment that has a little mesh section in here. So that's the rough layout of a bag, and that is true of the old version, and it's also true of the 35 liter version and I think the 42 liter version, and that's kind of the overall design of the Allpa bags if you're not familiar. This is the new version, this is the old version. One of the differences between these two, which is not a version difference, is just that this version is not the Del Dia version. I don't know how to say that, I'm so sorry. They have a version basically that is made of recycled materials, and they all come as like a random selection of colors. And then you have these which have, I think, a DWR coating on them, so they're a bit thicker, they're a little heavier, and they only come in solid colors. Otherwise, these two bags, despite the coloring and the slightly different coating on this one, are the same type of bag, and I'm pretty sure they make the new version in this coating as well. Features of our bags to begin with that they both share. They're both 28 liters. They are both clamshell opening. They have these mesh panels on the inside that give you internal separation, so it's not a pure open space like a suitcase. It has some internal organization. They are both the same weight. I think these bags are just over a kilo, or this one is. This one is a little heavier, I think, because of this coating, but the weight hasn't changed for the new version as far as I understand. Other features that these bags share, you have this back waist belt, that's the word I'm looking for, hip belt, that is stashable inside the bag. That is the same on both of them. They have these, the sternum strap as well that is adjustable up and down. That is the same on both bags. The designs of them, I would say, it doesn't feel like a huge change, but there are a few changes. The most obvious external change, we have this pocket now. The old one doesn't have. It's simply a small external pocket. It still has the same old zip here, so there is like a separate compartment like before this compartment, so there's like this little bit, and then there's this bit. Both bags have a side access here. This one has, I don't know how to describe it, almost like a felt kind of material in here though, which is not the case with the old ones. I'm pretty sure that's new, but otherwise it's got like a second little pocket in there, and then the bigger pocket for a laptop, that is the same. Another small change for the new version, the zips are now lockable. I don't know if you can see that, but they overlap like so. So you could put a lock through there. On this bag, they're just like normal zips. See? Like that. So you wouldn't have been able to lock them. So that's new. Another new external feature is this strap. Oh my god, it's so hard to show you. Where it says gear for good here. This is a luggage strap, so you can like put, I think the vision is that you put a suitcase handle through there or something. You know how some bags can like slot on like that. Another big change that people have been asking for a long time is drink bottle. It still doesn't feel huge, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not the most stretchy either, so you're not gonna fit a huge water bottle in there, but it's a standard size water bottle holder and it's super exciting that they added that. I can't fully compare this to this bag, but I do have the other like older Cotopaxi. The material feels a little different, but largely I would say it feels the same. And also the straps are a little different. I've heard people complain that they're not as comfortable, the new straps, or that they don't feel as comfortable. These definitely feel better. These are like a solid material. They're very soft and I like them a lot. And then the back is this mesh that is very soft to the touch or smooth feeling, and it's not super thick. Whereas on this one, you've got these two mesh panels and they have that same, I don't know, like it feels like foam feeling as a lot of other bags nowadays. I find it feels a bit cheaper, truthfully. And it's the same sort of paneling on here, and it's just kind of one solid piece. And then you can also like feel the indents from the stitching. I haven't used it extensively, so I can't say for certain, but I do find just on initial like wear that it does feel a little bit less comfortable than the old version. Onto the inside, she's pretty. On the inside, the insides are largely the same, except one change that I absolutely hate that they did this. The mesh panels now open inwards. So like they open that way, whereas before they used to open out like that. And that just is a lot needed to me because you might have multiple bits open at the same time when you're packing or whatever. And it's like why are we doing that? Why would you do that? In this version, we're opening out. I don't know if anybody was requesting that, but I hate it. Last sort of internal / external difference, the old versions all came with this rain cover that goes over the outside of the bag. It came in like a little, I can never find this pocket. Here. There's like a tiny external access pocket on the old version here where you would find the rain cover, or you could take it out and put other stuff there like I did. The new version does not have that pocket and does not come with a rain cover. Your mileage may vary. I don't really use the rain cover, to be honest, so you know, I don't think that's necessarily a huge departure. But the last change is the price. The price has increased. I couldn't tell you exactly how much. I had a hard time finding the price. I'll put the prices on screen if I can find them, but I do know that the price did go up. Now we're going to talk about pros. So with pros, I am going to lean heavily on my actual usage of the older version, but I will talk about pros and cons when it comes to the changes that they've made as well, because if you buy this bag now, you're likely going to end up with the new version. Although if you have the old version and you're thinking about whether you should upgrade or not, I will touch on that as well at the end. So pros of the Cotopxi Allpa 28 litre. I am a fan of the opening and the internal separation. I always loved that about the Allpa 35 litre that I had. Sometimes a pure clamshell bag where all you have is just like basically the backpack equivalent of a suitcase is a bit overwhelming, and it can be a bit hard to pack, and it can be a bit hard to find things, and it can be a bit hard to sort things. So even though it adds extra weight, I like the internal storage I always have. I remember being concerned about how durable the interior mesh would be, and obviously I can't entirely speak for this new bag, but the mesh feels pretty the same. I will say this one maybe feels a little thinner than the old version side by side, but it's not a huge difference. I still use the 35 litre bag as well, and that I've never had any problems with. The 28 litre I haven't had any problems with. The mesh feels really durable, and I think it's a really good solution for the internal storage because it's not too heavy. Okay, another pro of the Cotopaxi bags, and again, I can't like fully speak to this one as much as I can the old one, but I think they're pretty comfortable bags. Again, this would need to be re-reviewed with this one, but I found the old ones quite comfortable, so hopefully that will be true of this one as well. Surprisingly comfortable considering, again, it's not a hiking bag. It's never going to be the most comfortable bag. I feel like I always need to say this because this is a common complaint of travel backpacks, but it's never going to be as comfortable as something like a hiking bag that has the full suspension and has the really comfortable straps and has the really good sternum straps and really good hip belt. Like, you are compromising on that. But most hiking backpacks you couldn't really use to travel because they're too big and too heavy, or at least like to carry on travel. I mean, for a travel backpack, I do think I've always found them to be pretty comfortable, even as someone who is very short. I'm only 5 foot tall. Like, that's a pretty good size, you know? And because you can move the sternum straps, up and down, and you can choose to fold the hip belt under or not. That's another thing that really annoys me, is that if you don't want to use a hip belt, then it's just dangling there. So I like that you can fold it under. I like that they didn't get rid of that feature. So back to the pros. I feel like this one was obvious earlier, but I am very pro the addition of the water bottle holder. I'm glad that they added that. Another pro of the new version, I'm glad that they added this top pocket. There is a weird side pocket on this old version here that is something that I'm glad that they put in a more sensible location. Another pro of the new versions that I can't fully speak to, but I did look at this online because it is something I had a problem with. On the old version, like I said, they have the Del Dia version, which is like the brightly colored one. This is like the version that has the coating on it, like I mentioned. And when I got this, it was really super wrinkly just out of the bag. And even after use, it's become less wrinkled, but still quite wrinkled. And the coating almost looks like it's already quite damaged. Looks like it's gonna crack at any moment. Apparently the new version, vinyl cover, whatever you want to call this, is a lot better, but I can't fully speak to that. Another pro, not of this bag, but just in general, is that they have released a 20-liter version of the Allpa bag now. So it used to only come in 28, 35, and 42, and now there's a 20 if you want an even smaller bag. I'm not sure I would use a 20-liter version of this, but I could see the use of it, especially if it was more like a day pack maybe. Who knows, but maybe I'll try that out at some point if people are interested. Overall, I think it's not a drastic change, but they've added a few things that people wanted for a long time. It's kind of just a slightly better version than the old version. Next, I would normally launch straight into cons, but I am going to just mention a few changes that I find to be, I guess, like neutral, like I don't really care about, but you might care about, and I don't necessarily think they're bad changes, so they're just going to go in here. The luggage strap says gear for good on it here. I don't know if they're all going to say that, presumably they will. I don't care about a luggage strap. I'm never going to use that. If I was traveling with a suitcase, I don't know if I would be needing this bag. And I don't travel with a suitcase that much, so that is not a feature I care about. This locking mechanism, it's a neutral for me. Like, I'm honestly probably, like, I guess it's nice that you could padlock that together. You know, I don't think it's a bad feature, but I'm going to be so honest, I'm never going to use it. In terms of things I feel neutral about as well, this zip here, I do think it's a good change in terms of like the one on the side didn't really make a huge amount of sense to me. I just always forgot it was there. So having it be more front and center is kind of good. But you already have this huge pocket, so I'm like, why do you then need a smaller one immediately? And in that way, maybe the side pocket was more useful for you. That's why I think it's a neutral change. Like, I think I will use this pocket probably more now, but honestly, I'm mostly just going to use this pocket either way. But maybe you'll find that this is a really negative change for you because you would prefer the pocket to be on the side. That's up to you. So now let's talk about some cons. One con, we already talked about it. I don't like the mesh opening this way. I prefer them to open the other way. I don't really know why they changed that, and I'm annoyed that they did. Another con, even though I haven't used it, like I can just tell already from like briefly wearing it that these are not going to be very comfortable. Like, you can feel the stitching, and it feels like the quality of, you know, like decathlon bags that I've reviewed, but for a hugely more increased price tag. This is a $300 AUD backpack. It just doesn't feel very luxe. I'm annoyed that they changed that to make it cheaper while also increasing the price tag. It'll make it feel cheaper. I don't know if it actually is cheaper. Another con of the Cotopaxi bags is that they have put the word Cotopaxi on here. That has bothered some people. It doesn't really bother me, but the old ones just have the logo. I don't think it's a big deal. Another con, which is true of all the Allpa bags, maybe this one has a little bit more structure, but they're very floppy when they're not full. If you look at them when there's nothing in this section, like she looks a little floppy. You know, it doesn't have a huge amount of structure on its own. I think it's especially apparent with this one. If it's not full and there's not stuff in there, she's very wrinkly, flat, and especially in this material, like a bit rough looking, but I feel mine pretty full, so that's not a huge problem for me, but it might be for you. Another thing I'm going to list as a con is the bags are on the heavier side because you get all this internal storage and extra zips and all this stuff. It is possible to get lighter bags than this. Other cons, so like I was mentioning, I'm not super impressed with this material, and so I hope it is better on the new bags, but this came to me like literally out of the bag so wrinkled, and it really looks like it, I haven't even had this that long, and it really looks like it's kind of cracking a bit. I'm not super impressed with that. Maybe it's just cosmetic and it will be fine, but that is definitely something to keep in mind with this material. I've never had a problem with this material, so I don't know, maybe it's just this one bag. Another con of Cotopaxi bags in general, I had this issue with the 35 litre that I've had. The bright colours do get dirty all the time. It really just depends on what colour you get. I think they've introduced, and I don't think you can in Australia, but I think you can in other places, I think they've introduced the ability to pick whether you want dark colors or light colors and still have the random colors. So if you don't want it to get dirty, you could pick that option. That is something to keep in mind. It doesn't really bother me, to be honest. I don't care, but if that is something that bothers you, it does get dirty a lot. One thing that I think is a con, I do not like this material that they put in here for the laptop sleeve material. I don't know, it kind of feels like a cheap pool table felt, and I don't know why they've changed it. I can just see this almost immediately becoming really pilled and damaged, so I don't know what possessed that change, but I'm not a fan of it. The price, okay, we have to talk about the price. For the price, obviously this has some additional features, like it has a new water bottle, you know, we've got this newly moved pocket, we've got our locking zips, we've got an extra handle on the back. But I think for all the things they've added, they have equally detracted cost in other places. Like this is definitely cheaper, I feel like. I mean, I don't know about manufacturing, so I could be wrong. But this just feels hugely cheaper than this. This is a really nice padding, you know, really comfortable. Whereas this, it feels cheaper. You've added cost to a bag that I think feels like it costs the same amount to make as the old version. Obviously, I'm assuming that this is driven by inflation and increasing cost of materials, that kind of thing. It's more expensive because it's an ethical and sustainable brand. If it holds up as well as my old one, then this is a bag that I could have for a long time, and that really helps with the cost. But again, I haven't used this enough to say whether that's going to be the case. Overall, I think the Cotopaxi bags are really solid. I would in fact definitely recommend them to people. I really love a lot of things about these bags. I think they work really well for me. I don't think this bag is magically different from the old one. If you already have the Cotopaxi Allpa 28 litre bag and you're wondering whether this is worth the upgrade, unless you're listening to this video and thinking, oh my god, my life would be changed by having zips I can put a lock through or having a luggage handle. Unless you really feel that way, I don't think that it's doing much different in this version than the old version. I don't think that it's life changing. I don't think you need to upgrade. Overall, I feel neutral about the changes. I wouldn't say there's enough positive for me to say it's overall good, and I wouldn't say there's enough negative for me to say it's overall bad. I fear that it will be a less comfortable bag, but it's hard for me to say at this point. I really hate they changed the direction of the mesh opening, but maybe people out there feel differently to me, and you'll be like, thank God they finally changed that. If you're someone who's looking for a bag around the 30 liters and maybe you already had a bag that you've used to death and you really need an upgrade, then I think this is a solid choice. I think, or at least I hope, that if it holds up as well as the previous ones, that this is a bag that could last you a really long time. If you like the idea of the internal separation, I think that's a real strong point of this bag. Who this bag is not for, if you're someone who wants, you know, the lightest bag possible and you don't find these features interesting, then this bag is not for you. If you're someone who wants a true like clamshell opening bag that is just going to give you like the exact experience of a suitcase, and you can customize that as much as you want and organize that however you want, then this is not the bag for you. You really have to enjoy the internal separation and the compartments aspect of this bag, because it is the selling point of this bag. And if that doesn't interest you, then don't get this bag. I also think this is a good bag if you want to try out a clamshell bag for the first time, because of that internal separation, because of that internal compartmentalization. You don't have to necessarily have a whole system of like perfectly sized packing cubes and all this stuff to pack this bag and do a pretty good job of it. I find that is really helpful. I will be using this bag, if nothing else, partially because I'm just not super happy with the fabric of this one, which is sad. If that wasn't the case, I would probably still use this one, to be honest. I think that these features would not compel me to upgrade if it wasn't for me not being obsessed with how this material is wearing. I hope that helped you make a decision about whether you might want to pick this bag up or not. If you want to see other gear reviews, then you can check out the playlist of other gear reviews that I have done, everything from really expensive to really budget travel bags. I also have travel content on my channel, so if you want to check that out as well, make sure to subscribe and let me know what other things I should review in the future. Thanks so much for watching.